At my son's funeral, his wife looked me dead in the eyes and told me to stop crying, pack my bags, and get out of my own house. I'm James Carter. And what happened next changed everything. Picture this. Your son has just died in a car wreck. You're standing there in the same gray suit you wore to bury his mother years earlier. Grief is sitting on your chest like a concrete block. And the woman who married your son looks you in the eyes and says, "You're a burden now. This house is mine. I want you gone." She said it loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Called me worthless. Said Ethan had been carrying me for years, and she wasn't about to take on that weight. But here's the part she never saw coming. The house she was throwing me out of? I built it with my own 2 hands in 1989. I paid cash for the land. I supervised the construction. And the $850,000 she thought she was about to inherit? That money had my name on it the whole time. For 8 years, Sophia had lived under my roof, spent money she thought belonged to her husband, and treated me like some charity case who had overstayed his welcome. I didn't argue. I just walked away. Sometimes the quietest answer is the one that hits hardest. And 3 days later, Sophia was going to find out just how expensive assumptions can be. Let me take you back to the beginning. The signs were there early. I just didn't want to see them. After Ethan died, Sophia took over everything. The funeral home, the flowers, the casket, even the music. When I mentioned the old Johnny Cash song Ethan and I used to play while we were framing the garage, she cut me off. "Too depressing, James. We need something uplifting." She stood there in a black dress that cost more than my first car, directing people like she was the star of her own tragedy. And me? I sat in the back in that same gray suit, feeling invisible in a house that still smelled like my late wife Eleanor's cooking. At the reception, Sophia pulled me into the kitchen. "We need to talk about your situation," she said. "My situation? You're financially dependent now. Ethan was supporting you. I can't carry that burden." Burden. That word landed harder than the accident itself. She told me the house was Ethan's, that everything was his, that now it was hers. I just nodded. She took that nod as surrender. What she didn't see was the quiet calculation happening behind my eyes. She had no idea Ethan never owned a single square foot of this place, never paid a property tax bill, never signed a mortgage. She also didn't know about the filing cabinet in my basement. For drawers, 40 years of records, every receipt, every deed, every trust document filed exactly the way a retired accountant would file them. Most of all, she didn't know about the trust. That night, after the guests left, Sophia cornered me by the front door. I meant what I said. This arrangement isn't working anymore. I looked around the living room. The walls I'd painted 3 times. The hardwood floors I'd laid myself when Ethan was still in diapers. The crown molding we measured together when he was 12. "I understand," I told her. She had no idea what I understood. The next morning, I sat at the old kitchen table Eleanor and I bought at a garage sale in 1988 and made a list. Not of what I was losing, of what Sophia thought she was gaining. The house on Oak Ridge Drive, 2,400 square feet. Market value around $420,000. Ethan's life insurance, $150,000. The furniture, Eleanor's photographs, and my dignity. That last one bothered me most. Sophia was already boxing up Eleanor's photographs, taking Ethan's childhood drawings off the refrigerator, pulling my old CPA certificates off the den wall. "I'm redecorating," she said. "Ethan always said this place needed updating." Updating. Like 40 years of a family's life was outdated software. She gave me 30 days. November 15th. She even handed me brochures for Sunset Manor. $800 a month for a studio. "There are programs," she said. "Food stamps. Medicaid. The government takes care of senior citizens." That's when it hit me. She didn't just want me gone. She wanted me grateful for the privilege of leaving. And she had made one giant assumption. That Ethan owned everything she was claiming. 8 years of marriage, and she'd never asked to see a deed. Never looked at a tax statement. Never wondered why the property tax bill always came addressed to me. Ethan had helped me after Eleanor died. Groceries. Doctor appointments. Yard work. Sophia saw that help and decided it meant he was supporting me. She never considered the opposite might be true. I could have told her right then. Could have pulled out the deed and watched her face change. But I didn't. Some lessons only stick when a person digs the hole themselves. Thursday morning she walked into my kitchen without knocking. A manila folder was under her arm. "We need to talk about your finances," she announced. I took a slow sip of coffee. What do you think he was covering? Everything. Mortgage, taxes, electric. You're on a fixed income, James. Social Security doesn't stretch that far. Is that what Ethan told you? Her pen stopped. He didn't have to tell me. It's obvious. You've never seen the deed, have you? I don't need to see the deed. Ethan inherited this house. Did he? Silence. In 8 years of marriage, did Ethan ever show you a mortgage statement? Nothing. Did you ever see him write a check for property taxes? More silence. Here's what I think happened, I said. Ethan helped me around the house. You assumed that meant he was supporting me financially. Appearances can be deceiving. She stood up. Fine. Show me the deed then. Prove you own this house. I don't have to prove anything to you. Yes, you do. I'm Ethan's widow. I inherited everything. Did you? We stared at each other across the kitchen. Her jaw tightened. You have until November 15th, she said. After that, I'm changing the locks. I smiled and started loading the dishwasher. Some conversations are better finished with lawyers present. Friday afternoon, I went down to the basement. The filing cabinet stood exactly where I'd left it. 4 drawers, each labeled by decade. I pulled the bottom one first. 1980s. Original land purchase. March 12, 1989. James Carter, buyer. $43,000. Construction contract. $81,000. And the deed. Recorded March 15, 1989. Owner. James Carter. No cosigner. No joint ownership. No mortgage. Paid in full. Every property tax receipt. Every insurance policy. Every utility connection. All in my name. Ethan's name appeared nowhere. Then I reached into the back of the drawer and pulled out the folder marked Carter Family Trust, Private. I opened it. Current balance. $853,412. Ethan had been a beneficiary during his lifetime. Monthly help for school. His wedding. The down payment on his first car. But ownership always stayed with the trust. And the life insurance? $150,000. Beneficiary. The Carter Family Trust. Sophia had been making plans with money that was never hers. I closed the cabinet, went upstairs, and made myself a sandwich. She had given me until November 15th. That gave me 2 weeks. I could call her right then and end it. Or I could let her keep talking. My old business partner used to say the best negotiation strategy was letting the other person talk themselves into a corner. Sophia was already halfway there. And on Sunday morning, she walked straight into it. Sunday morning, Sophia showed up with 3 of her real estate friends for what she called a consultation. I heard them before I saw them. This place has incredible bones, but the decor is so outdated. Another voice answered, You'll need to get the kitchen. Sophia laughed. James will be moving to a senior community soon, so I'll have full control over renovations. I came downstairs in my church clothes. 3 women I'd never met were taking pictures of my living room. Sophia introduced me like I was a curiosity. This is James, Ethan's father. He's the original owner, but he's transitioning to a more suitable living situation. Transitioning. I looked at Sophia. Is that what I'm doing? We discussed this. November 15th, remember? I remember you discussing it. An uncomfortable silence settled over the room. Sophia tried to push forward. James, while everyone's here, maybe you could tell them about the maintenance issues. The roof leak. The furnace problems. There was no roof leak. The furnace was 2 years old. I'm not aware of any maintenance issues, I said. Her smile tightened. James is very attached to this place. Sometimes he doesn't see problems that are obvious to others. Problems like what? Like the fact that you can't afford to maintain a house this size anymore. Can't afford it? Your Social Security barely covers basic living expenses. And you know this how? I'm not blind. You drive a 15-year-old Honda. You shop with coupons. You haven't updated anything since the Clinton administration. One of the agents cleared her throat. Maybe we should reschedule this tour. No, Sophia said. This needs to be said. Then she looked at me. You've been living off Ethan's generosity for 2 years, and now that Ethan's gone, you need to face reality. The reality that I'm a burden? The word came out of my mouth before I could stop it. Sophia didn't back down. Yes. The room went quiet. You have been since Eleanor died. Ethan was too kind to say it, but someone has to. Too kind to say what? That supporting you was bankrupting him. She took a breath. The property taxes alone are $8,000 a year. Add utilities, maintenance, your medical expenses. Ethan spent $40,000 last year keeping you afloat. I looked at her. Did he? You know he did. Show me. She blinked. What? Show me the checks. She didn't answer. The bank statements. Nothing. Property tax records. Silence. Then she said, Ethan handled those things online. I nodded. So you never actually saw any of it? Her face flushed. I was married to him. I know what he did. I looked at the three agents. Then back at Sophia. So you're throwing me out. I'm giving you a month to find appropriate housing. That's more generous than most people would be. Generous. Yes. She looked around the room. Frankly, James, you never contributed anything to Ethan's success. He built his own life, earned his own money, bought his own house. This house. Yes, this house. Ethan inherited it from Eleanor. And now I inherit it from Ethan. I nodded slowly. I see. Good. Finally. Sophia. She looked at me. You might want to check your facts before making statements like that in front of witnesses. She laughed. What facts, James? I'm a real estate professional. I know how property ownership works. Do you? I looked at the three women. Ladies, you might want to ask Sophia to show you the deed to this house before you start planning renovations. Her face went white. I headed for the front door. Enjoy your tour. I had a lawyer to call. Monday morning I sat across from Margaret Collins. She had handled my legal work for 20 years. 3 manila folders sat on the desk between us. James, she said, adjusting her glasses. Are you sure you want to do this? Once we start, there's no taking it back. Good. We reviewed the deed. Sole owner since 1989. No co-signers. No mortgage. 37 years of property tax records. All paid by me. Insurance policies. Utility bills. Maintenance contracts. Everything in my name. Then the trust. Current balance. $853,412. Ethan had been a lifetime beneficiary. Never a trustee. Never an owner. Margaret leaned back. This is a substantial estate. Sophia had no idea. None. And Ethan never told her about the trust structure. Ethan was a good son. He just wasn't detail-oriented about finances. Margaret looked at me. So she assumed he was supporting you instead of the other way around. That's right. Why did you let this go on for 2 months? I thought about that Sunday morning. Her calling me a burden in front of strangers. Because I wanted to see how far she'd go. Margaret nodded. And she went pretty far. Yes. What do you want to do now? I want the insurance claim processed immediately. That money belongs to the trust. Done. I want Sophia served with formal notice that she's a tenant in my house, not an owner. 30 days. The same timeline she gave me. Margaret smiled slightly. Poetic justice. I want her to understand exactly what Ethan's relationship to the trust was. We can provide complete documentation. And I want witnesses present when we have this conversation. The same real estate agents? Yes. Margaret set down her pen. That feels like public humiliation. No. I looked at her. Public humiliation is what she did to me. This is public education. There's a difference. Margaret considered that. When? Tomorrow. Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, Margaret Collins and I walked into Premier Realty. Sophia was at her desk showing house photos to a young couple. She looked up. Her face went from professional smile to confusion to alarm. James, what are you doing here? We need to talk. I'm with clients. Can this wait? No, Margaret said. I'm Margaret Collins, attorney at law. We need to discuss some urgent legal matters regarding your late husband's estate. The young couple exchanged glances and started gathering their things. Around the office, conversation slowed. Margaret opened her briefcase. We need to clarify some misconceptions about property ownership. There are no misconceptions, Sophia said. I inherited Ethan's house. What house is that? 447 Oak Ridge Drive. And you have documentation of this inheritance? Ethan's will left his personal property to me. His car, his clothing, his personal effects, and his house. Margaret pulled out the deed. Ethan didn't own a house. The words dropped into the office like stones into still water. What do you mean he didn't own a house? Margaret laid the deed on the desk. 447 Oak Ridge is owned by James Carter. Purchased March 15, 1989. No co-signers. No joint ownership. No mortgage. Sophia snatched the paper. Her face went from pale to white. This has to be wrong. It isn't. Ethan inherited this house when Eleanor died. Eleanor owned no property. Everything was purchased by James before their marriage. Sophia stared at the document. I don't understand. Margaret opened the second folder. 37 years of property tax records, all paid by James Carter. Insurance policies, utility bills, maintenance contracts, all James Carter. Sophia looked at me. You're saying James was supporting Ethan? I'm saying James was supporting his son from his own resources. Then Margaret opened the third folder. The Carter Family Trust. Current balance, $853,412. Sophia's voice became smaller. Ethan was a beneficiary? Yes. And James? Trust owner and controlling party. Sophia sank into her chair. But Ethan told me he was helping James financially. Ethan was helping James practically. Groceries, rides to appointments, yard work. Margaret paused. James was helping Ethan financially. Sophia looked around the office. Then came the question. The life insurance. Margaret pulled out the document. The beneficiary of Ethan's life insurance policy is the Carter Family Trust. Sophia's face went completely white. James. She looked at me. I didn't know. You didn't ask. You could have told me. You could have asked respectfully. Margaret closed the folders. Sophia, you have 30 days to find alternative housing arrangements. But where will I go? Margaret answered calmly. You're a capable adult with a career. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Sophia looked at me. Can we work something out? I considered the question. Sophia, yes. Respect isn't negotiable. I understand that now. Do you? Yes. Good. That's the first step toward earning it back. Margaret and I headed for the door. Sophia called after me. James, what happens now? I turned around. Now you learn what I've always known. What's that? That quiet people aren't weak people. I paused. We're just selective about when we use our voices. And with that, we left. The silence behind us said everything. Part 3. The Consequences. By Thursday, the story had spread through the suburban real estate community like wildfire. My neighbor Helen, who had known me for 37 years, brought coffee and the latest gossip. You should have seen Sophia at the grocery store yesterday. What happened? She was shopping in the clearance section. I smiled. There's nothing wrong with that. I know. But usually those real estate friends of hers are trailing behind her like she's some kind of celebrity. Then Helen got serious. 3 clients have already requested transfers. I wasn't surprised. The young couple who had been meeting with Sophia the day Margaret and I walked in had even posted about it. They had apparently decided they had dodged a bullet. And other people agreed. Her broker called her in for a meeting. Then her attorney called Margaret. Sophia wanted to stay 6 months instead of 30 days. She offered $2,000 a month in rent. Market rate was closer to $3,500. I told Margaret to counter with market rate. First and last month. Security deposit. $10,500 up front. Sophia couldn't afford it. She moved out the following weekend. And she left Premier Realty that same week. Officially, it was called a mutual agreement. Unofficially, the clients had already voted with their feet. 3 weeks later, the doorbell rang. Sophia stood on my porch with a moving box in her hands. I found some things that belong to you. I opened the door wider. She placed the box on the coffee table. Photo albums from when Ethan was little. Some of Eleanor's handwritten recipe cards. I looked at them. Then at Sophia. She looked around the room. It looks the same. Why would it look different? She gave a small, sad smile. We sat quietly for a moment. Then she spoke. James, I owe you more than an apology. You don't owe me anything. Yes, I do. She took a breath. I treated you terribly. I stayed quiet. I made assumptions about your life, your finances, your worth. She looked down. I was cruel when I should have been grateful. And now I understand something I should have understood from the beginning. She looked toward Ethan's photograph. Ethan learned his values from someone. His kindness, his generosity, his quiet strength. He learned those things from you. I nodded. Ethan was a good son. He was. And you were a good father. I looked away. I just couldn't see it because I was too busy making assumptions. She stood to leave, then turned back. If I'd been respectful from the beginning. She paused. If I'd asked questions instead of making demands, would things have been different? I thought about it. Probably. She waited. I would have helped you transition, given you time to find your feet. We might have found a way to honor Ethan's memory together instead of fighting over it. She nodded. I guess respect really isn't negotiable, is it? No. Thank you for teaching me that. After she left, I opened the box. Ethan's baby pictures. Eleanor's handwritten recipes. Small treasures that had somehow ended up in the wrong hands. I sat there for a long time, thinking about the past 3 months. The funeral, the confrontation, the legal resolution, the consequences. Sophia had learned an expensive lesson about assumptions and respect. But I'd learned something too. Quiet strength doesn't mean silent acceptance of disrespect. Boundaries aren't walls. They're guidelines for healthy relationships. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply tell the truth and let people deal with the consequences of their own choices. Ethan would have been proud of that lesson. Eleanor would have approved of the quiet way I handled it. And me? I was at peace. But there was one thing I still had to understand. What exactly had this whole experience taught me? The answer came slowly, and it changed the way I looked at my entire life. For years, I thought being quiet meant avoiding conflict. I thought being patient meant letting things go. I thought being a good man meant not fighting back. But I finally understood something. There is a difference between peace and surrender. Peace is choosing not to fight over every insult. Surrender is allowing people to walk over you. I had spent most of my life being quiet, but quiet never meant weak. It meant I knew my worth without needing to announce it. Sophia had judged me by my old Honda, my coupons, my simple clothes, my age, my fixed income. She looked at those things and decided she knew everything about me. She was wrong. And maybe that's the lesson we all need to remember. People can see your circumstances, but they cannot see your entire story. They can see the old car. They can't see the years of hard work behind it. They can see the simple house. They can't see the memories inside it. They can see an older man sitting quietly at a kitchen table. They can't see everything that man has survived, and they certainly can't decide his worth for him. I still have that original deed. James Carter, owner. Sometimes I look at it, not because I'm worried about losing my house. I'm not. I look at it because it reminds me of something bigger. I built that house. But more importantly, I built a life. I loved Eleanor. I raised Ethan. I worked. I saved. I gave. I lost. And I survived. None of that can be measured by a bank balance. None of it can be inherited. And none of it can be taken away by someone else's assumptions. I still miss Ethan. I probably always will. No amount of money changes that. No legal victory. No house. No trust. Nothing brings your son back. That was the part of this whole experience that mattered most. The argument was never really about money. It was about dignity. It was about being treated like a human being while I was grieving. And in the end, I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to destroy Sophia. I didn't need to shout. I simply let the truth speak for itself. And sometimes, that's enough. If you've ever been underestimated because you're older, because you're quieter, because you live simply, because you don't drive the shiny car, or because you don't feel the need to tell everyone what you've accomplished, remember this. You don't owe the world a performance. You don't have to prove your value to people who have already decided not to see it. You don't have to become loud just because someone else is disrespectful. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one sitting quietly in the corner, watching, listening, and waiting for the right moment to speak. Not for revenge, for the truth. Because the truth doesn't need a loud voice. It only needs time. Sophia thought she was inheriting everything. The house, the money, the life Ethan had built. But she discovered something very different. You can't inherit what was never his. And you can't take what was never yours. But there was something she did inherit from Ethan. His memory, his kindness, his love, and hopefully, the lesson. Eleanor would have approved of the way I handled it. And Ethan? I think he would have been proud. Not because I defeated Sophia, but because I didn't become cruel just because someone had been cruel to me. That's the real victory. Not revenge. Not money. Not winning an argument. Peace. So if you've ever been written off because of your age, your quiet nature, or the simple way you choose to live, tell me about it in the comments. Tell me about a time someone underestimated you, a time someone assumed they knew your worth, and discovered they were wrong. Because you never know who might be reading your story tonight. Someone who feels invisible, someone who has been dismissed, someone who has been told they're too old, too ordinary, too quiet, or not important enough. Maybe they need to hear this. Maybe you do too. You are not defined by someone else's assumptions about you. And you don't have to become loud to become powerful. Remember, quiet doesn't mean weak. It just means selective. And sometimes, the most powerful people in the room are the ones who never needed to prove anything at all. Until next time. If you've ever been underestimated because of your age, your quiet nature, or the simple way you choose to live, I want you to remember James's story. Never let someone else's assumptions decide your worth. Sometimes you don't need to argue. You don't need revenge. You don't even need to explain yourself. Sometimes you just need to stand your ground, tell the truth, and let the truth speak for itself. So tell me in the comments, have you ever been underestimated by someone who thought they knew your worth? And if this story meant something to you, don't just scroll away. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. Because quiet doesn't mean weak. It means you know your worth, and you don't need to shout to prove it.